Okay, I have several probably memorable foods, but some have lots of more nostalgia kind of memories than because it was my favorite food or whatever. I grew up on a farm, and my growing up was when a time was a shortage of meat, since it was right after the war. Since we grew up on a farm, we had lots of okazu, mixed vegetables. And within that mixed vegetables, just not the farm, but my parents used to go mushroom hunting, and lots of matsutake. So that's kind of a favorite memory food, as well as a family activity, very enjoyable activity that the whole family would participate in. I never found any mushrooms, but I loved walking in the woods. I loved the smell of the woods. And occasionally my grandpa would point out a spot. He'd say, "See that little mound there? Dig it." Sure enough, there would be a mushroom there.
So the whole family would go?
Oh, the whole family would go. Yeah, it was in the fall, and so and the other reason I loved it is because my grandma always packed up a big lunch. So we had onigi, or if there was leftover sushi, she would take it. I mean, it was a regular outdoor picnic, camping to go mushroom hunting. Love that. Such a great memory. Still can taste the matsutake that we would bring home. So.
Will you tell me how you would cook it?
My mother used to, one of her favorite was we'd have so many, we would just put it in the oven, and she would just bake it, steam it, bake it. And we always had lots of daikon, so we'd grate up the daikon, put it, with the cooked mushroom, put a little vinegar on it, have some hot rice. That was wonderful, wonderful flavor.
Simple.
Yeah, very simple. That's how, in my childhood, that's what we had, were simple home-cooked meals. So, but it has lots of more nostalgia than because it was my not the perfect favorite childhood food, but more nostalgia involved when the okazu we used to have. So we lived over near Blue Lake Park over here in East. My father farmed out there. So that's where I grew up, out in East County.
And what kind of vegetables did you grow?
We had a lot of strawberries and row crops. And we were near what is now Airport Way, and that used to be all very fertile, arable land. And my father, we farmed along that area, which is now all paved with Airport Way. All the warehouses, factories have come along there. Started out growing a lot of strawberries. That's what my dad started out with. Then not profitable, too fragile, hard to get pickers. So went into more non-perishable row crops. This is where my parents had that. So the nostalgia there is they started growing root crops, parsnips, rutabagas, turnips. My father had his main market was the distributor we had sent to Canada, and they were good favorite root crops there. My mother tried to make us eat those. To this day, nobody in my family eats rutabagas, turnips, or parsnips. But that was my parents' livelihood. Probably my favorite dish, since we didn't have much meat, is I love tonkatsu. So yeah.
And do you make that dish?
No, I don't do any Japanese cooking. That's why I come here. It's, they have a lot of variety, and they have wonderful cooks here. So yeah. Oh well, my family has a long history. So my parents, Emiko and Kazuo Kikawa, were part of the group who originally organized the Ikoi community group. And it was intended to be a community group where especially Issei people who were getting older didn't have opportunity to always speak Japanese, which was their primary language. Cooking, the Niseis were getting more cooking American food and all. So it started out as kind of more of a community feeling, gathering place. It had food, Japanese food. It wasn't always Japanese food. When they first started, it started out with loaves and fishes. Yeah, loaves and fishes. They were connected with that. And soon after that, I think they had started out that there were 2 days a week they had loaves and fishes meals, 2 days of Japanese meals. And so that expanded and grew, and they became independent as Ikoi. So I have a long, long history with that and have watched it grow and expand and change, and more community people participating and eating when you see the group that comes now. So it's kind of a historic memory for me on how. And also it's nostalgic to see, the older people, the people who were my parents' age and the Isseis as time has gone on, they've all passed. And so I've watched that history. I'm third generation now, so I don't feel that as much, but I've watched my grandparents, and my parents, of course, were Niseis. But yeah, it's always a feeling of keeping connected with, supporting each other. Back then it was supporting each other within the Japanese community and the connection, but I think that has continued on now, where not just Japanese, but Asians feel a real sense of supporting each other, helping each other, encouraging each other, and kind of keeping a connection with the cultural roots, and sometimes just your own family. As we always used to say, everybody in the Japanese community is related to each other. Well, I think we still feel that. Even since I've come to Ikoi, some ladies I've met, I find out, oh, yes, by marriage or by connection, yeah, I'm related to you.
It's really beautiful.
So it's a sense of just having this little community where you understand each other, support each other, help each other, and keep the culture and history of the Asian community going. So, yeah. No, I think it's a great program that you all help to keep our little, our Japanese community and history, the history that is going on. Because like every other culture, as each generation passes, our original heritage culture is lost and we don't understand it all. So we need people like you to continue that, keep the history, and educate other people.